श्याम सुंदर राधे। जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम। जय रुक्मिणी द्वारकाधीश रुक्मिणी द्वारकाधीश रुक्मिणी द्वारकाधीश रुक्मिणी द्वारकाधीश। जय जगन्नाथ जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा। जय गौरानीता जय गौरानीताय गौरानीताय जय गौरानीताय। जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा। जय ओम श्रीपाद परमहंस परिवर्जिकाचार्य अष्टोत्तरशत। His Divine Grace अभय चरणारविंद भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदी। All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from Canto 3, Chapter 15, Text 13. Ta ekada bhagavato Vaikunthatasya amalatmanaha Yayurvaikuntanilayam Sarvaloka namaskritam. Ta ekada bhagavato Vaikuntasya atmanaha Yayurvaikuntanilayam Sarvaloka namaskritam. Ta ekada bhagavato Vaikuntasya amalatmanaha Yayurvaikuntanilayam Sarvaloka namaskritam. Ta ekada bhagavato Vaikuntasya amalatmanaha Yayurvaikuntanilayam Sarvaloka namaskritam. Ta ekada bhagavato Vaikuntasya atmanaha Sa ekada bhagavato Vaikuntasya amalatmanaha Yayurvaikuntanilayam Sarvaloka namaskritam. Mataji. Sa ekada bhagavato Vaikuntasya malatmanah Yayur Vaikunta Nilayam Sarvaloka Namaskritam. Vaishnavis. Ta ekada bhagavato Vaikuntasya malatmanah Yayur Vaikunta Nilayam Sarvaloka Namaskritam. Ta ekada bhagavato Vaikuntasya malatmanah Yayur Vaikunta Nilayam Sarvaloka Namaskritam. Ta ekada bhagavato Vaikuntasya malatmanah Yayur Vaikunta Nilayam Sarvaloka Namaskritam. Ta ekada bhagavato Vaikuntasya malatmanah Yayur Vaikunta Nilayam Sarvaloka Namaskritam. Te, they, ekada, once upon a time, Bhagavataha, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vaikuntasya, of Lord Vishnu, Amalatmanaha, being freed from all material contamination, Yayuhu, entered, Vaikunta Nilayam, the abode named Vaikunta, Sarvaloka, by the residents of all other material planets. Namaskritam, worshipped. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. After thus traveling all over the universes, they also entered into the spiritual sky, for they were freed from all material contamination. In the spiritual sky, there are spiritual planets known as Vaikuntas, which are the residents of Supreme Personality of Godhead and His pure devotees, and are worshipped by the residents of all material planets. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The material world is full of cares and anxieties. In any one of the planets, beginning from the highest down to the lowest, Patala, every living creature must be full of cares and anxieties, because in the material planets, one cannot live eternally. The living entities, however, are actually eternal. They want an eternal home, an eternal residence. But because of accepting a temporal abode in the material world, they are naturally full of anxiety. In the spiritual sky, the planets are called Vaikunta because the residents of these planets are free from all anxieties. For them, there is no question of birth, death, old age, and diseases. And therefore, they are not anxious. On the other hand, the residents of material planets are always afraid of birth, death, disease, old age, and therefore, they are full of anxieties. Hare Krishna. Wonderful. This is absolutely crystal clear. I don't know why we have to speak about this, because Prabhupada has absolutely mentioned the fallacies of this material world, how we are always anxious about everything, like the mind is always thinking, willing, feeling. It's always thinking and willing and feeling. Anyways, just because Prabhupada has given us this opportunity to speak, so we have to speak something about this with the mercy of all the Vaishnavas present here and all the senior devotees. I'd like to speak something about this verse. See, understand from te precedes something else which has been already spoken before. So who is this te? They. Who are these they? They are the four Kumaras. Anyone knows the name? Everyone knows the name? Anyone can just volunteer and say, who are those four Kumaras? They have names. Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana, Sanat Kumara. Yeah, wonderful. So they call Sanakadi. Sanakadi means all these four Kumaras. They were actually just come to come up to date with what is happening here. So they were actually the Manasaputra of Brahma. Brahma, the secondary procreator, secondary creation, who did the secondary creation, he was given this power to create progeny through meditation, through mantra meditation. And and he created these 4 Kumaras, and after that he also created Narada Rishi. After creating Narada Rishi, he wanted them to really get married and continue with the progeny so that the world can actually function. But they all refused. And we know that when Narada also refused, he came into a mode of ignorance completely, and from his head came Lord Shiva. So, and Devarishi Narada is also one of the brothers. He's also Devarishi. Though he's part of the Devatas, he's Devarishi. He's considered as Devarishi Narada. And eventually, Daksha Prajapati was the one who was also given this power to really procreate, get progeny. And eventually, he was also given power to produce children through sexual intercourse. From Daksha Prajapati, this all started having sexual intercourse. So Daksha Prajapati also was meditating upon, and he also brought about 1,000 sons. Then 1,000 sons came into contact with Devarishi Narada. When they came into contact with Devarishi Narada, they all turned into Vaishnavas, and they became. Narada said, "Oh, puna puna charbita charvananam, you're chewing the shoe. Just forget about it. Just come with me. I'll make you devotees, first-class devotees." So he transformed them, all these 1,000 progeny of Daksha Prajapati, into devotees. Then Daksha produced another 100. And he produced another 100. Narada came and then took them away. He made them brahmacharis. You come to the temple, become brahmacharis. So it's a famous curse by Daksha Prajapati to Narada. He said, you cannot really stay in one place. So Prabhupada also mentioned about that curse. He also takes it upon himself. I've also been cursed by Narada Rishi, so that since I'm actually taking away a lot of children, transforming them into Vaishnavas. So Prabhupada explains here, Vaikuntha Loka is without Kuntha. Kuntha means, in Sanskrit Kuntha means anxieties. So we have anxieties every day in the morning. And Dvanda, duality is always there in our mind. Whether to get up in the morning, when we get up in the morning, oh, it's 3:30, so should I get up or just wait for another 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes I should sleep. Maybe I'll just skip Mangalarati. So like that. There's always Sankalpa, Vikalpa, Sankalpa, Vikalpa. When Sankalpa, Vikalpa happens, there's always Kuntha in the mind. But this Vaikuntha Loka is without Kuntha. So this is without any kind of anxieties at all. So Prabhupada mentions every jiva is eternal. Just because the jivas are eternal, they're looking for a place to stay permanently. And they know that in the material world, they cannot stay permanently. So they have to leave at some point of time. Everyone has to leave. Everyone, even if it is a king or whosoever just comes, even the spiritual masters, when the devotees also come, they also have to leave. So their eternal abode is Vaikuntha Loka. So they're always looking for a place to stay eternally, and that loka is Vaikuntha Loka. Prabhupada explains here. And we understand from the verse, from this very chapter, third canto, 15th chapter, verse 43, that Sanakadis, Sanak Sanatan, Sanatan, Sanak Kumar, they were actually impersonalists. Prabhupada calls them impersonalists in that 43rd verse. But Chaitanya Charitamrita also, Madhya-lila also says that they are actually in the Shantarasa. Being Shantarasa is also kind of an impersonalism. Now, how do you say that? The verse clearly says, Tasya Aravinda Nayana Padaravinda Kinjal Kamishra Tulasi Makaranda Vayu Antaragati Swavivarena Chakartyasham Sankshobham Aksharajusham Apichitta Tanmaho. Aksharajusham, this word is very important. They were actually agitated by the smell of the tulasi, which along with the lotus feet of Krishna, and an aroma was actually flowing, and the air was flowing, and that aroma actually disturbed them. Otherwise, they were actually situated in Shantarasa, they were situated in Brahman realization. And Srila Sridhara Swami, we also heard about Sridhara Swami today in the morning in Mangalarati. Prabhupada is also quoting Sridhara Swami. It's one of the authors of Srimad Bhagavatam, Tika. one of the foremost authors. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also used to refer to him. I mean, he's from the contemporary of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even much more before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was from Shankara school, but even today Vaishnavas actually refer to him. So Sridhar Swami says, even those in Shantarasa, those who are impersonalists, they also get a shot to become pure devotees at some point of time. So he quotes three things. First and foremost is, these impersonalists, or so-called in Shantarasa, these people should not be inimical of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They should be conducive to, or they should be favorable to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They could be in Shantarasa, they could be in impersonalists, but as long as they're not inimical towards Krishna, they are fine, they are actually qualified. And how does this happen? Sridhar Swami says, first, by association with pure devotees. When they come in association with pure devotees, they are immediately transformed and they come to the level of like Krishna says, like Bhagavatam says, Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yachkyanam avyayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavanati shabdate. The same tattva which has been explained in three forms is Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. So they actually come to the Bhagavan realization, to the personal aspect of Krishna. So coming in contact with pure devotees is one. And then paraphernalia used in the service of Krishna, if they come in contact with any paraphernalia which is used in service of Krishna, they come in contact with that, they immediately are transformed into that Bhagavan realization. Like in this case, Tulasi, the verse says here, Antargata Swavavrinein Chakaratesham. What happened? Kinjal Kamishra, Tulasi Makarandavayu. So Tulasi, which was in the lotus feet of Krishna, and since aroma and air was blowing, and that actually entered into the nostrils of this Sanakumara, Sanaksanatha Sanandan, and they were completely disturbed. They said, what is happening here? Huh? My peace has been disturbed. So they wanted to really go to the source of Tulasi, to the lotus feet of Krishna. And they went there and they eventually met Krishna. Or Vishnu, you could say that. So paraphernalia used in seva. And also he says direct or indirect association of Krishna through Srimad Bhagavatam or any other ways means. So even one actually reads Bhagavatam, one touches Bhagavatam, one sees Bhagavatam, just by seeing that or just by association. It's not only Bhagavatam, Sridhar Swami says, Itara means other paraphernalias as well, in the sense that it's only not only Nama, it's not only Bhagavatam, it's Nama, Rupa, Guna, Lila, Dham and Sant. Any of these, if they come into contact, they immediately transform to the Bhagavan realization of Krishna. And that's why Prabhupada he always used to say, Prabhupada said, distribute my books. Just distribute my books. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about the contents. Of course, you have to read the contents as well as such. It's not that. But don't worry, just distribute my books, because he knew that very well. Where is this coming from? It's coming from Sridhar Swami. It's coming from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So just by distributing Prabhupada's books, just by associating with Bhagavatam, just by touching Bhagavatam, one can be immediately transformed to the personal realization of Krishna. And we also understand the Vedic scriptures. There are many examples like that. And one classic example is Shukadeva Goswami. We saw in the first canto, in the very first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, how Shukadeva Goswami was an impersonalist. When he was born, he just started running away. And Vedavyas was chasing him and said, Putreti, Putreti. He was just calling out, son, my son, come back. He was not even listening. What son? Whose son? Nobody's son. He was actually situated in impersonalism. But they are not actually situated in that. It's just for the purpose of proving some certain points. Sanakadi, they do that. So it's not completely that they are in Mayavadi or they are in Mayavad. No, it's not like that. But Vyasadeva was actually addressing him as Putra, but there's no response from him. And Vyasadeva, what did he do? He sent his disciples. He just said, okay, find out exactly where he is residing. Shukadeva Goswami is my son. And he sent his disciples to chant 2 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. Anyone knows those verses? 2 verses, the specific verses where acharyas say 2 verses were chanted by the disciples of Vyasadeva to Shukadeva Goswami so that he could be transformed. So Vyasadeva knew very well. So the first verse is beautiful form of Krishna. Barha Pitham Natavaravapu Karanayo Karnikaram Pibrat vasa karaga kapisam vaijantim chamalam Randharan venur adhar sudaya purayan gopavrindar vindaranyam swapadaramanam pravishad gitakirti. So explaining Krishna's beautiful form. Barha Pitam, this peacock feather on his head. Natavaravapu Karanayo Karnikaram. In his hands, he's got this Karnika flowers swirling. Vrindaranyam Swapadaramanam Pravisad Gita Kirti. In Vrindaranyam, when he's just entering into Vrindavan, and his own lotus feet. He's not wearing shoes or anything of that sort. He's just entering into Vrindavan. Vrindaranyam Swapadaramanam Pravisad Gita Kirti. When Shukadeva Goswami heard this, he said, maybe this is explaining somebody's beauty. So what do I do? I mean, it doesn't make any difference to me. I'm not really concerned about it. Somebody, beauty, yeah, fine, that's fine. Then the disciples came back and said, he heard it, but there's no response from him. Then Vyasadeva said, okay, all right, go on chant this verse. Aho bakiyam sthanakalakutam jighamsayapayapi asadvi Debhe gatim dhatri uchitam tatonyam kamva dayalum sharanam rajema. It's a beautiful verse. What does this verse say? So even though Putana came with poison smeared on her breast just to feed Krishna so that she could kill her. Her purpose was to kill Krishna. That was her purpose. Baki, the sister of Bakasura. Aho bakiyam sthanaka alakutam jighamsaya. Jighamsaya means to kill Krishna. She came to kill Krishna. Jighamsaya api asadvi, even though she was asadvi. But what did he give? Lebhe gatim dhatri uchitam tatonyam. He gave her the position of a mother in Vaikuntha Loka. So when Shukadeva Goswami heard this, he completely got transformed. He said, what is this? This is the mercy of the Lord. So he said, oh, who taught you these verses? So he started speaking to this Vyasadev's disciples. Who taught you these verses? Oh, come back. Your father has all these verses. There's 19,000 there. Come back. So he came back, and his impersonalism was completely transformed into personalism, into the lotus feet of Krishna. Like I said, it's just an enactment. It's not just that Shukadeva Goswami was an impersonalist, so we should not misunderstand that. So we should know that very well. And also in the life of King Janaka, we understand, Inahi vilokat ati anuraga barbas brahma sukhai manatyaga. In Ramayana says, when Janaka was also an impersonalist, but when he saw this Ramachandra and Lakshmana, he was asking Vasishtha, Maharaj, what happened to me? My heart is going towards them. We are not supposed to do that, right? Because we are impersonalists. We are not supposed to do that. We cannot give any heart to anyone, for that matter. But my heart is automatically going to them. So what do I do? So Vasishtha said, no, that's quite natural. So for an impersonalist to transform, they came in contact directly with Lord Ramachandra. And in the previous verse, of course, we understand that Shukadeva Goswami came into contact with Srimad Bhagavatam in the verses. And you also have Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He was one impersonalist. He came in contact with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he transformed himself. He became a devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And there is also Prakashananda Saraswati with his 1,000 disciples when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu addressed him. It's a beautiful verse, beautiful. You can just go to Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela and read that. Oh, right there, Prakashananda Saraswati. He's being transformed into Vaishnavism. That's so beautiful. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showing his humility, just sitting in the place where the shoes are actually are taken out. So showing humility, he came in contact with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and transformed himself completely into Vaishnavism. Then there is also an example. There are so many examples like that. It's also an important example of Madhusudan Saraswati. So Madhusudan Saraswati was also an impersonalist. He has 10,000 disciples. With his 10,000 disciples, when he was just going around, especially he will just go around. Even Shankaracharya, there's also a story of Shankaracharya. I've personally seen in my own life the followers of Shankaracharya. When Shankaracharya would travel, when impersonalists, they travel around, they will actually dig a pit and live there. They don't live in any residences. They will dig a pit, especially the sannyasi, the head sannyasi is given a pit to actually live. They live there. Then the next day, They come and douse that, and then they go to another place, dig a pit, and they live there. When Shankaracharya came to Vrindavan, when he came to Mathura, all these disciples started asking him, should we dig a pit? He said, no, don't worry about it. I'll just roll in the dust of Mathura. Then when he came to Vrindavan, he started rolling in the dust of Vrindavan completely. So he completely transformed himself. So Madhusudan Saraswati was also living like that. So when Madhusudan Saraswati came to Vrindavan, he started chanting Krishna's name. When he started chanting Krishna's name, the disciples of Madhusudan Saraswati, they asked him a question. Said, just till yesterday you were saying that impersonalism is the highest, topmost philosophy. This is what you were saying. And today you say Krishna is topmost philosophy. So how do we reconcile this? How do we reconcile this? Then he recites a verse, a beautiful verse. He says, Vamsi Vibhushit Karat. One who is holding a beautiful Vamsi in his hand. Nava Niradhabhat. He looks like a fresh cloud. Fresh cloud. That's his beauty. That's his beauty. That's his form. That's his rupa. That's his swarupa. Pitambarat Aruna Bimba Falat Adhanavashtad. And he's got a pitambara. He has a pitambara on his shoulder. And his lotus mouth is like an Aruna Bimba Phala. Aruna Bimba Phala. A Bimba Phala is something which just, when you just open that, I don't know how do you call this in English. You open that, it is actually reddish in color. So his lips, he's describing his lips as so beautiful, like an Aruna Bimba Phala. And Purnendra Sundara Mukhat, his lotus face is like a full moon. Arvinda Netrat, beautiful eyes. Tasmat Krishnat Paratatva Kimapi Aham na janat. He says, anyone who is superior to him, I don't know about it. Now you all decide whether you want to follow me or you want to be an impersonalist. That's your choice. So Madhusudan Saraswati transformed into personalism, into Bhagavan realization of Krishna. So everyone has a chance. Everyone has a chance to take to pure devotional service. But this process has been explained to us by Rupa Goswami and also in Madhya Lila. Rupa Goswami explains how the process is there. Adho Shraddha, Tatha Sadhu Sang Bhajana Kriya Anata Nivritti Syat. Then the next verse he says, then Bhava, and then come to the level of Prema, and Prema becomes Sneha, Mana, then Pranaya, then Raga, Anuraga, Bhava, Mahabhava. Then Mahabhava becomes Madanakya Mahabhava. Then there is Brahmabha. Then Prema Vaichitri becomes. Then Mahabhava becomes, then there are two divisions there. Then it becomes, Madan becomes Mohan. Mohan in association with Krishna. In Viraha it becomes Modana. Modana, Mohan. Then Prajalpa, Vijalpa, Avijalpa, Sujalpa. This is all song of the bumblebee. Vishwanath Chakravarti explains about this, all this beautiful. In fact, there was a seminar on Prajalpa. Srila Rupa Goswami quotes this verse in Nectar of Instruction, Prajalpa Niyamagraha, in connotation that it's actually not favorable. Prajalpa is something called Gramakatha. He said we have to avoid Gramakatha. But at the same time, Rupa Goswami also quotes this Prajalpa. The actual meaning of Prajalpa is Krishna Katha. Prakrishta Rupena Jalpa iti Krishna, iti Prajalpaha. So he explains. So Prajalpa is actually Krishna Katha. So one can come to that level of Vraja Prema. And of course we know Vraja Prema is just a privy of the 12 forests of Vrindavan. Our own dear Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Gopi Kesi Ghat Bamsi Vata Dvadashakanana. So what are these Dvadashakanana? These 12 forests of Vrindavan with Yamuna flowing from north to south. The 7 forests in the west and 5 forests in the east, Madhuvan, Talavan, Kumudvan, Bahulavan, Kamvan, Khadirvan, Vrindavan on the west, and Bhandirvan, Bhadravan, Belvan, Lohvan, Mahavan on the east, with Jamuna flowing from the north to south. So within this confines is this beautiful, wonderful pastimes. Just to give you a glimpse, we're running short of time, just to give a glimpse of what is this Braja Prema is. So in Vedic culture and also in Vaidiha Bhakti, we are always advised to just cook for Krishna and offer it to Krishna. But Raganuga Bhakti or Ragatmika Bhakti, especially followed by the gopis, is totally different. The gopis, what do the gopis do? They churn the butter and hide it from Krishna. This is a special mercy. This is special leela. This is actually, they hide it from Krishna. And what kind of bhakti is this? But Narada Bhakti Sutra, Narada says, Yatha Braja Gopikanam. Not that we are supposed to emulate Krishna or emulate the gopis. No, we're not supposed to do that. But at the same time, that's one kind of bhakti which can be only understood by very advanced devotees. And Suradas, in his poem, in a beautiful poem, he explains this wonderful pastime of the gopis. In this poem says, once Krishna has been confronted by Mother Yashoda, completely confronted by Mother Yashoda. Actually, he's been caught red-handed by the gopi, stealing butter. So today you're caught red-handed. Now, there's no way. I'm going to be dragging you to Mother Yashoda and you're going to be punished today. And Mother Kunti also says, Gopya Adade. One gopi just took a stick and you were actually afraid of that stick. And come Kartik, we also sing this beautiful song. Namamishwaram Sachidananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Bhrajamanam Yashoda Bhiyukhala Dhavamanam Param Amrishtam Atyanta Gopya. She ran faster than Krishna. Anoraniyam Mahato Mahiyam. This has been said about Krishna. He is heaviest of the heaviest, the smallest of the smallest, fastest of the fastest. And that fastest person has been really caught from behind by Mother Yashoda. Imagine. So that's one of the glimpses. So quickly to recap. So Suradas says he's been caught. So they have this gopi has dragged Krishna in front of Mother Yashoda. So Krishna gives an argument. Mother, look at me. I'm so small. And these gopis actually hide this all the way up there. And how do you expect me to reach? I'm so small. How do you expect me to reach? Mother knows, she's been explained already how this guy actually reaches up there and how actually breaks all those pots. He's got a special talent to really find out where this butter is actually hiding. This is one of the kala. In my own life, I've seen that there's one of my uncle who used to live in the same village where I was actually growing up with my grandmother. This guy had a talent of how to really find out where the water is. With a lot of villages, they actually come and he would absolutely do nothing at all. Everyone was working in different places, but this gentleman was never working. But even villagers from far distance, they'll come and fetch him just to really go and make him find out exactly where water is so that they can actually dig a well and take out. He would just smell the earth and really find. But there's some kind of talents like that. So they say, Krishna has his talent. He knows exactly where the butter is actually hiding. Even though we have a decoy, we have so many other butter pots, we have so many pots, empty pots, and then he just finds out exactly and then takes it down. And he eats, he distributes to everyone. So Mother knows how you actually reach and get it. How do you just climb on each other's shoulders and get it? So Krishna says, all right, now I'm caught in this act. How do I actually escape? So Mother says, all right, you cannot reach that. But I can really clearly see that the butter has been smeared on your face. How do you explain that? Krishna, how do you explain that? So how do you explain butter? So you've been caught red-handed now. So tell me the truth, actual truth. So Mother says, Mother, actually, I'm so handsome. I'm so handsome, and these young friends of mine, they're inimical towards me. Look at them. Look at them. They're not even dressed well. I'm so handsome. They're inimical towards me. They actually, by force, smeared this butter on my face. So, Mother, this is not me stealing butter. They smeared this on my face. And these cowherd boys are saying, come on, Krishna, don't put us in a spot like this. Then Krishna says, we have to get out of this situation somehow or the other, otherwise we will not be getting any butter at all. And look at her. She's got a stick in her hand. So, when they say, then the cowherd boy says, yeah, we actually did that. We actually did that. He didn't steal any butter. So they support. So this is one of the glimpses, and the whole poem goes like that. This is one of the glimpses actually Suradas is painting about wonderful pastimes. So what this verse says is everyone has an opportunity to come to that level of understanding of Krishna's prema, Krishna prema, Madanakya Mahabhava, Madana Mohana, and everyone, but the process is, there's a long process. One has to be actually in the association of devotees and understand all these things. And the process is slow and steady, but for sure. It's 8:30. I wanted to say something else, but I ended up saying something else. I'm so sorry about that, and please excuse me for my impudence. I'm not a philosopher. I don't have much of philosophy to say, but I'm just a sentimentalist, so I was just expressing about this beautiful pastime of Krishna. So I hope it's okay with you, and you will forgive me my impudence, and I'll open up for any questions, comments, or criticism. Maharaj. Anything you want to say, Maharaj? I'm done here, Maharaj. Yes, Prabhu.
Just have a reflection that since you were talking about how this is personally becoming in contact with, before you say Nama, Rupa,
Guna.
Guna, Lila. So the name of Krishna, the form of Krishna, the qualities of Krishna, the pastime of Krishna.
That actually summarizes the Srimad Bhagavatam, actually, coming in contact with Srimad Bhagavatam. So the Bhagavatam explains. Or just in case the impersonalists, they come to the temple and come and say, looks at Krishna, they look at Krishna and say, they appreciate something of Krishna. They say, oh, so beautiful flute, period.
So I was appreciating the way you build it up, and you end up in describing the beautiful pastime of Krishna, which is actually that there is a king who said that there's a verse actually that mentions that one who knows the pastimes of Krishna, he will not have any taste for any other thing. He will lose his taste for everything. And Tabak Kritamatang Nam Nam, he says that once you know this, you give up everything else. Any desire else that you might have will be gone.
I wish that comes to me.
Yeah. So that's my...
Oh, thank you. Any other questions, comments before we just pack them and go? Prabhu, you want to say? Oh, okay. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.